So you may remember a couple weeks ago I did a video on the Ataribox, which was shrouded in mystery, and it was supposed to be Atari's grand return to home console gaming. And since then there's been little sorts of news bits, little information here and there talking about the device, but nothing really concrete was actually given. Well, if you're a subscriber to the Ataribox newsletter, today you got some information that sort of shined a bit of a light on the system. And there's some interesting things to talk about with the system, and there's definitely some things I don't like about the system now. But with all that being said, what is the Ataribox? Is it the next NES Classic? Is it a next-gen console? Or is it the next Coleco Chameleon? Let's talk about it. In case you haven't seen any of the million of other YouTubers who uploaded videos about the Ataribox or websites talking about the Ataribox today, basically some information was given about the actual system itself. First off, there was some rendering, some prototype designs of the console, and I think it looks pretty nice. I'll put some pictures up on the screen now. It's definitely a very aesthetically pleasing system. You know, in my opinion, it's not that hard to make a system that looks good. I think the Atari Jaguar still looks okay, so maybe I'm not the best to, you know, give my opinion on what looks good and what doesn't look good, but I think it's nice. It's got clean lines, it's got a good overall aesthetic, but once again, that is just a prototype design. It's not a final confirmed sort of thing. And as far as the actual system goes, which is what everyone wants to know, what is this thing capable of? What can this thing do? Everyone's still pretty much in the dark. They did say it had HDMI out. Okay, it's 2017. Most things have HDMI out. It does have 4 Ethernet cable, or 4 USB slots for controllers, obviously, a Ethernet cable slot for online stuff, and it has no physical media. It has an SD drive slot, and I assume what you'll be able to do is download games onto this device. And what kind of games are we talking about? Well, according to the little presser, it was retro games and current games. And here's where my first red flag comes up. Because if you're doing a device that obviously is going to have no physical media, but you're trying to attract a retro audience with the Atari brand name, and you're not doing physical media, you're going about it the wrong way, because these products sort of already exist in the marketplace with the flashback consoles. You see, there's 2 types of people that like retro, in my opinion. There are the sort of impulse buyers, the ones who just want to play simple games, and then the collectors. So the impulse buyer, they're the ones that love the NES Classic. They're the ones that love the Atari plug-and-plays because it's simple. You simply hook it up to your television, there's no additional stuff needed, and they're cheap. They're super cheap to pick them up. You can pick them up at Dollar General, grocery stores, Walmart, pretty much anywhere you go, these things were available. Now, obviously, the NES Classic wasn't that readily available, but I think Nintendo sort of underestimated demand and just didn't produce enough of them. But talking about the flashback line from AT Games, you know, those are so readily available, you can get them pretty much anywhere. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum is someone like me, or someone like you probably, who's more of the retro enthusiast, someone who doesn't mind spending a little extra money to get a new cartridge of a new game for a new system, and so on and so forth. And I feel like if they're putting the emphasis on classic games with modern games mixed in, well, first off, we have to look at that statement from both angles here. If it's classic games, what is the advantage over the plug-and-play systems? Would it be HD out? You know, Hyperkin's making that 2600 clone that has HD out that will be able to play your cartridge games. Let's face it, this isn't Storage Wars. Atari 2600 games are pretty damn cheap. Yes, the common ones. They're not $10. You don't know what you're talking about in pricing things if you think common Atari 2600 games are $10. But that's a whole nother topic. So when you look at Atari 2600 collecting, it's pretty affordable, honestly. Most of the main games that people want, they're able to afford. So the collector isn't going to really be interested in the Ataribox because it's digital only. The impulse buyer is probably not going to be impressed with the Ataribox because there's already these plug-and-play systems, which will probably, honestly, be a fraction of the cost of this new Ataribox console. So we've come to a point where what's the market for this? You know, a lot of retro stuff binges on nostalgia and relies on nostalgia. I meant to say hinges, not binges. But I guess you could binge on nostalgia too. And this just seems to be kind of missing the mark. Now you have to look at the modern gaming aspect. They said current games. What does that mean? Current Atari games? What games does Atari make anymore? I believe they do Roller Coaster Tycoon. Is that going to be, you know, your swan song on the system? Like, I don't know. The wording and the way they sort of went about things really sort of worries me about the system, because obviously it's not going to be, you know, a $40 plug-and-play system. This is obviously a system that's going to cost time, effort, research, and development for, so it's going to be priced probably accordingly. I don't think it'll be as much as like a Switch or a PS4 or whatever, but it'll probably be in the triple-digit range. I would just assume, you know, $100 to $200, and that impulse buyer is not going to be that attracted to it, especially when it comes with no games. Obviously, you're going to have to purchase games for it, aren't you? That's the whole point of the online system. And then the retro collector has no way to get physical games. It'll all be digital. So, it's kind of a problem. But like I said, obviously they're putting time and money and research and development into this, and with their own money, they are obviously not going to make any mistakes. They're going to give the consumer exactly what they want. Oh shit, it's crowdfunded. Oh my god. Why? it's 2017. Crowdfunding was done for smaller companies who have a dream, who have a vision, who want to create a product. I have no problem with smaller companies wanting to create a product and using crowdfunding as a way to gauge demand for that product. There's nothing wrong with that. Small indie developers, small indie studios. This is freaking Atari. If you're going to bank on the Atari name and then go to crowdfunding, you know what you smell like? You smell like the Coleco Chameleon. And I mean, at least the Chameleon was promising physical media. This doesn't even promise that. So yes, this will be a Kickstarter project. The Ataribox will be on crowdfunding, Kickstarter, so obviously they had to have a working prototype before they go on to Kickstarter, but boom, second red flag. I'm sorry. Man, in this day and age, if you can't afford to create a certain product and you are a large company, or at one point were a large company, it's probably not a good idea to get back involved. So many people have been burned from Kickstarter campaigns, whether it's from games never coming out, you know, developers taking all the money and going on like a cocaine and hooker, you know, binge on it and no one ever getting the game. The Ouya, which was a cool system, but it didn't really end up being what people wanted. Mighty Number 9, which was a disappointment for so many people. And there's just so many Kickstarter horror stories that I can't imagine the common person who's going to walk into a Walgreens and pick up a, you know, plug-and-play Atari system for $40, or the retro enthusiast who's not going to be able to play a physical media on this device really being interested in this project and really backing the project. So today's information honestly made me lose interest in the project. I'll still definitely cover it for you guys and give you guys my opinion when we start seeing things like specs, what it's capable of, and maybe they'll be able to change my mind. But there is no way in hell I am contributing to this on Kickstarter. There's no way in hell they're getting any money from me if I have to wait a year or two for, you know, obviously it's going to be a while. I mean, if they're only showing, you know, renders of stuff, there's no actual prototype ready. It sounds like this is definitely in its infancy. So I don't expect this to be a 2017 release, maybe a late 2018, early 2019. When one is available in the store, maybe I'll pick it up. But I will continue to cover it for you guys because it does make for interesting content. And like I said, maybe they can change my opinion, but oh man, there's too many red flags, too many Coleco Chameleon smells coming from it, and I learned my lesson last time. I learned my lesson. So let me know what you think about the Ataribox in the comment section down below. If you think that, you know, the common person will just pick up the plug and plays, that it will still be made, if the retro collector will not like the, you know, lack of physical media, or if you think there's a market for it. Let me know what you think the market is in the comment section down below. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, make sure you hit that like button, and I'll catch you guys next time. Later.
RGT 85. RGT 85. RGT 85.